So Drake is having a weird year. So if you keep up with hip hop or just music at all, you probably already know that Drake has been embroiled in a big beef this year with Kendrick Lamar, a beef that, according to most people, Drake lost. And while I could come on here and just run over tired points about how Drake did lose this beef and why Kendrick is so amazing and all that, and I definitely will be doing that possibly in the near future, I am more here today to talk about another strange Drake occurrence that is not related at all to the beef. Well, maybe a little bit to the beef, but not too much. I also want to say, just as y'all can see, new dorm, new set, perhaps. I might be using this for like the foreseeable future. I'm not entirely sure. And I'm kind of just testing it out right now with like a little mini episode because I have work tomorrow morning. I'm like very busy right now, and I'm trying to find the time to get back to work on YouTube, but I'm in job training, so it's gonna take a little second. So perhaps more mini episodes on the way. Honestly, this video was actually going to be a channel update for the longest, basically until like a few hours ago, but then something happened today that kind of changed my mind about what I wanted to talk about this week because I feel like I couldn't be silent about this because I have a lot of thoughts about it. So Drake posted to his Instagram story what amounted to basically a content dump, a collection of like 100 gigabytes worth of files, Drake videos, old, recorded songs, recording sessions, things like that. I obviously didn't like comb through it myself meticulously because I just don't care that much about Drake. And honestly, it seemed like a pretty whatever kind of release. But while the release itself was kind of whatever and I could care less, I feel like the whole idea of the release is very interesting and kind of says a lot about where the future of music could be going. So like I said, this is basically a content dump. This is like a self-leak, the likes of which you really only see happen to artists when somebody like hacks into their system and pulls out a bunch of unfinished songs, unfinished videos, and just publishes them to the internet. But in this case, Drake did it himself. And I guess first off, the big question for me is, do I think this could work for any artist? Like overall, is this a good idea in any respect? Just leaking unfinished songs, unfinished videos of yourself, and basically a big content dump. And my answer to that is a bit complicated because I think to do it right, you would have to basically come into it with some kind of artistic idea of how you wanted to do it. There are some artists who I think could do that. I'm just thinking about JPEG Mafia because he just released his album, which is great, by the way. I think he's an artist that's very rooted in internet culture and really lets fans into his creative process in a way that other artists don't. So I think for him, something like this would be fitting and it would be an interesting project. But for Drake, the king of making forgettable, boring, just content, literally musical content. I mean, he's released like 4 albums in the last 3 years that are all like an hour long. I think one of them is like an hour and a half. So yeah, for Drake, this really doesn't read as anything all too artistic. It reads a lot more as just Drake wanting to make some money by basically putting out a bunch of old leaks and old unfinished videos. And if I'm gonna give Drake credit for one thing, being at the top of one trend and really pioneering in any field, it's definitely in the field of making content art. Drake is literally the trendsetter when it comes to bloated albums, releasing a bunch of albums rapid fire, releasing music that sounds like it was created by AI. And now I feel like we're reaching the conclusion of that, where Drake is really just giving up on any pretense of like turning this music into an album or making this into like some kind of documentary. He's just like, here are a bunch of files that are saved on my computer. Take these, look at them, give me traffic to this website that makes me money. And to me, that's annoying, but it's not really surprising for Drake. I think so much of his beef this year was honestly about Drake's integrity as an artist and just proved that he doesn't really have a lot of it. So I'm not surprised that Drake would do something like this. However, this does kind of suggest a weird future for music where perhaps leaks and unfinished content that normally would only see the light of day if, again, somebody hacked into an artist's system and pulled it out and gave it to the world, that kind of stuff might become a legitimate means of money, of making money. And artists might take it upon themselves to leak their own music because they just don't feel like finishing it. or because they don't really have a good place for it and they want to make money off it. And I think there are interesting components to that. I think that, for some artists like that have issues with sample clearances or just make a lot of music that maybe otherwise wouldn't see the light of day, that's fine. But when it comes as this really cynical thing of just like, I'm going to put out this unfinished work because I don't want to bother completing it. When it becomes not about the art, but more about just putting content out there and having your name circulating, that to me is where you run into issues, because Drake is not doing this to show that he's this amazing artist. He's not trying to do this to come back from the Kendrick beef and reestablish himself as some artistic genius, some leader of the culture of hip hop overall. He's doing this to get headlines, and he's doing this to make money. Back in 2018, Drake released Scorpion, an album that's incredibly bloated, not all too good, and kind of set off this trend of artists just releasing bloated albums that we're still seeing to this day, simply as a means to boost Spotify streams, Apple Music streams, get more streams per album, and make more money off said albums. I don't know if this moment will be the big sea change for hip hop culture that something like Scorpion was, but I'll be interested to see if this dump of content, this 100 gigabytes of just Drake's stuff that has now been put on the internet, I wonder if that will have some type of impact on music overall. Scorpion had a large part in setting off one of the most detrimental and artistically bankrupt trends in all of hip hop music that we've seen over the past few years. That's a trend that extends beyond hip hop into other forms of music. And I wonder if Drake doing this will have a similar effect. Will we see artists purposely leaking their stuff in the future, not as a means of artistic expression, but as a means to basically just dump their work on the internet unfinished and get paid off it? I don't have the answers to that, but it's worth considering because I think it is a very real possibility. As much as we might like to deny it, Drake does have a hand in pushing maybe not the culture, but definitely the commerce culture in music overall. How people make money, how people get the most money out of their work. Drake is the ultimate sellout guy, and a lot of people follow his trends of selling out. Drake did pioneer a lot of money-making trends in music, including, a dance hall record on every single album, releasing albums rapid fire, releasing bloated albums, things like that. And I do wonder if the content dump will catch on in hip hop overall, and then maybe eventually make its way to just popular music in general. Like I said, I don't have the answers. I just think this speaks to a very interesting trend we're seeing in not even just music, just in media overall, where people are gravitating more towards just consistent content over real focused art. People aren't watching YouTube like they used to. Now they're going to Twitch. People are obsessed with TikTok and its never-ending feed. I think that realistically, we could be moving into a world where content just becomes the central thing that people are looking for, whether it's good or bad. People just want consistent content to have their attention spans fueled for an unlimited amount of time. If that is the future we're moving towards, this whole content dump that Drake has done, it's a pretty damn good means of achieving that goal. What it sacrifices artistically in the process, well, that's something I think Drake could care less about, and it's something I worry fans could care less about as well. So like I said, this is just a little mini episode. I needed to put something out, full transparency, because I am under a lot of pressure right now. I have bigger scripted videos in the works coming down the line, hopefully very soon, once I'm able to get back to doing consistent editing and I'm not just doing work all the time. I have work tomorrow morning, so I definitely need to get to bed. It's 11:30, but I hope y'all enjoyed the new setup. Feel free to leave a comment if you're vibing with it, if you enjoy it. It's very cozy for me. I have my little beanbag chair. And with that being said, as always, I have been Ellie. Y'all have been wonderful. And until next time, bye.